Compound nouns in headed and headless compounds. English has a lot of compounding formation, a lot of words which are formed with the process of compounding. It's very common in English language. These changes, compounding, therefore generate new vocabulary needs that are more readily answered by new nouns than by new verbs or adjectives. So, if you take any language, you will find that there are more new nouns than verbs or adjectives. And any language takes first nouns from other languages than adjectives or verbs. For example can be found with each of the other main word classes supplying the left hand element. So we have verb noun, swear word, drop hammer, playtime. We have two nouns to get a compound, hairnet, mosquito net, butterfly net. Adjective nouns, blackboard, green stone, faint heart. Preposition noun, in group, outpost, overcoat. All of these have the main stress on the left. That is a characteristics in English language to help us determine the compounds from noun phrases. The fact that hair restorer, butterfly net, etc. have a space between them, that does not affect this fact because from the grammatical point of view, they form each of them form a complex word. Most of these are also right-headed, right? Arriving at the precise meaning of these compounds depends on our knowledge of the word rather than on purely linguistic knowledge. So, for example, mosquito net or hair restorer, to understand the meaning, we need to know more than linguistic knowledge. Have linguistic knowledge. We need to know how things work in the word. The difference in precision with each, we can interpret hair restorer on the one hand and hairnet, etc. on the other, hinges on the fact that the restorer in the hair restorer is derived from a verb, restore. Verbs, unlike most nouns and adjectives, impose expectation and requirement on the noun phrases that accompany them in the sentence. So, the noun phrases help us understand the meaning of the verbs. For example, an X restorer, whatever X is, something or someone, that restores X. Here are some more compounds whose second element is derived from a verb. For example, sign, writer, writer from write, slum clearance from clear, crime prevention from prevent, and wish, fulfillment from fulfill. Some terminology for convenience: call a noun compound like hairnet, mosquito net, in which right hand noun is not derived from a verb and whose interpretation is therefore not precisely predictable on a purely linguistic basis, a primary or root compound. So, if the right hand word is not a verb and it's a noun, so we call it primary or root compound. So, that makes certain type of compounds, we call them headed or headless. For example, an adjective noun compounds faint heart. So, faint is adjective and heart is a noun. So, how do we know the exact meaning of this phrase, this compound? For example, a green stone is a kind of stone, a blackboard is a kind of board in a certain color. But what about a faint heart? Faint heart, a heart, obviously we cannot say a kind of heart, but it's a kind of person, right? So, heart is the head of the compound. So, we cannot understand the meaning of a certain compound with the help of the word its right hand word. we have to rely on the word in which sense it is used. Rather, faint heart is headless in the sense that its status as a noun is not determined by either of its two components. Headless adjective plus noun compounds are loudmouth and red shank and other, right? So they are headless because their right-handed word does not help us to understand its meaning. So although heart is a noun, it is not appropriate to call heart the head of the compound, right? Rather, faint heart is headless. So in this case, we call it faint heart headless, whose meaning is out of the word, right? It is determined otherwise. Headless compounds have no internal center, so they are called exocentric because of this. We are talking figuratively. Whereas headed compounds have center in within them, and they have internal center, and they are sometimes called endocentric. So headless are called exocentric, and the other type headed compounds are called endocentric because they have their internal center within the compound, and the headless compound do not have their internal centers, so they are called headless compounds.